because Rajnikant connects with the people at a different level. He connects at a ground level, at a base level, at a common man level. Kamal Hassan doesn't do that. Kamal Hassan connects at an intellectual level, at a superficial level, as you would call the elite level. So he might appeal to some of the elite. Rajnikant appeals across uh, uh, you know, strata of society. So that is where Rajnikant is a very crucial element in the upcoming elections if he decides to stand. In my conversation with him when I met him in Chennai the last time, what I categorically told him was that it is important that he should stand for elections because Tamil Nadu needs a Rajnikant.
Hello and welcome to Voice of Common. Today we have a very special guest from all from Goa. So he is very special to us, and he is none other than a rebel leader resigned from the Congress, and he is none other than a person who first of all said that Rahul Gandhi is not my leader, and he is the head of the Goa Chronicle. Welcome to our show, Mr. Savio Rodriguez.
Namaste.
Yeah. So we have many things to talk with you. So let me start with the bilateral relations first, and then I'll go to the national things happening in India, and then we will especially discuss widely about Tamil Nadu politics.
Sure.
So tell us something about the Nepal issues. Nepal is suddenly giving some problems to us. So why is the sudden problem? Is this the failure of our foreign policy towards the Nepal?
Oh, well, I wouldn't say it's a failure of the foreign policy, but regional relationships between nations to nation depend upon which is the powerful nation that you are subjecting yourself to. In the case of Nepal, because the fact that it is a communist government in Nepal at this point of time, so the obvious alliance would be towards China instead of India. The government prior to the communist government in Nepal was more favorable towards India. So at this point of time, the Chinese government has a lot of hold on Nepal. They have a considerable hold on Pakistan. You need to understand that China is a very tactful player. China is obviously playing for global dominion. India is one of the countries that is in the way of China's plans for global domination. And this is something that has been planned out years ago. It is not something that is new now. Which is the reason why, if you notice, the we had strongly taken the issue of the Congress Communist Party of China pact signed in 2008, because the relationship between the Congress Party and China goes way back to the time of Nehru. It was further strengthened with Rajiv Gandhi's visit to China, and then of course Sonia Gandhi's visit and this pact with the Communist Party of China. And if you actually study that very intently, you would see that the accrued benefit, firstly, if the benefit was for India, then the deal should have been a government to government deal because it was
Yeah.
a UPA government at that point of time. So there was no necessity for a party to party deal. But a party to party deal did take place. And the party in China is only one political party, which is the Communist Party of China. So, really, in effect, Congress signed a deal with the Communist Party of China. So, it was not really a party to party deal, it was bordering on a party to government deal. Having said that, they could have done it into a government deal. Now, the broad contours of this deal, if you go by Sonia Gandhi's interview to a Chinese news agency, dealt with trade, infrastructure development, investments, and youth working together between China and India, common exchanges happening. But if you look at analyze the benefit that China has got right up from 2008 onwards, and when the UPA was in government, right up till the Narendra Modi government came in 2014, China has benefited immensely from it. How has India benefited? This pact led to a complete decimation of the MSME businesses in India. So the question that arises because of that is, through the free trade agreement, which was really what the posturing was all about, it was China that actually dumped its goods into India, its mediocre cheap goods into India, and the Indian MSME sectors did not get an opportunity to take off. So, to me, that is the criminality of the entire action of that pact. It does not matter to me on issues of the scam or the amount of money that has been paid. The amount of money is paid is corruption, but the decimation of the MSMEs is actually borders on treason and working against national interests. So what in effect happened is that Congress, through its tie-up with the Communist Party, ensured that China accrued the benefits, not India. And that is questionable because you were in government. You are representing India. You're not representing China, right? And that is where this entire question of Congress's equation, and then you have to look at it from the point of the border issues that are there. Now you have regional cooperation that has happened where Nepal has become a communist country. You have Pakistan that is fighting against India. There were issues initially with Sri Lanka which are getting settled. There is an issue with Maldives in the region, which again is being settled. So the cooperation that was there regionally tend to have been more favoring China than anything else. And during this pact of the UPA, when this pact was on and still goes on, 600 minimum intrusions happened across the border. China intrusions into India. So what was the benefit of the pact to India is the reason why we have taken this PIL in court. And I think it's very important for the country to understand that when a political party takes side of another political party, which is really the government in that country, then you need to understand why was it never done as a government to government deal. So the interest is not India. The interest is the political party, and that is where national security comes in, that you have put the political party above the country. So what was the gain? And that is why we've asked for an NIA probe to understand what gain did Congress get or the Gandhis get out of this pact with China.
Yeah, I see you have been continuously tweeting to Mr. JP Nadda, and you have been continuously tweeting to Mr. Amit Shah as well as Mr. Narendra Modi regarding this pact. So, will the BJP take the necessary actions, and will the Gandhis face something in court like that? We can expect something from them, because we have seen that Chidambaram has been facing many trial issues from the in the past 6 years, but recently only he has stayed in the jail for a minimum of 100 days. Can we expect that too the Gandhis can face something in the court regarding this pact?
You see, I think the problem with the BJP is this strategic gameplay that they think is correct. They believe that the problem in India is the ecosystem around India, which has been allowed to flourish and bloom because of the Congress. They believe that in order to destroy that ecosystem, they have to systematically take on the Gandhis by not giving them any sympathetic wave. That's the biggest fear. The biggest fear is that they will get sympathy if anything happens to them. If they are arrested or there's an inquiry, it will turn into vendetta politics. And politically, they might think that strategy works. In my opinion, that strategy is not going to work. And I'll tell you why. Uh, an ecosystem is built by the leaders of an ecosystem. Okay, so people follow. If you see even today, some of the spokespersons of the Congress that are towing the Congress line, which are sometimes very anti-national in their approach instead of being pro-India, it is towing a line of a follower and then a leader. So in a situation like this, the ecosystem does not change because the people continue to fear the snake. Even if you take out the venom out of the snake, let's say you continue to say, okay, there are corruption cases, there is this case against Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, you think you're extracting the venom. You think you're making people hate the snake. But the snake, the fear of the snake doesn't go away. As long as that fear remains, the snake continues to remain powerful. So the strategy that should be adopted. And if you look into history of lot of political nations, you will see that when you chop the head of the snake, it is that time that the ecosystem tends to change for the benefit of the people. As long as the dictators or the people who control that ecosystem exist, that ecosystem never changes. You pick out any old history and you would see that you have to chop the head of the snake out, which means in this case, the Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, the Vadras, if they have got serious corruption charges against them, you need to ensure that justice is given to the country. If you are telling me that you cannot do that and you cannot control the ecosystem in the last 6 years, then you really have not succeeded in what you set out to do. It's my opinion.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that is their strategy. I can only share mine.
Yesterday, I saw a tweet from Mr. Chidambaram's account that he was saying that we will give back the fund we got from the Chinese. Will they go back? He's tweeting like that. I mean, the question I got is whether the Chinese came here for that funds.
Okay,
I
his
don't know
tweet,
why he's
his
tweeting like that. I don't know.
Chidambaram's tweet referred to the Prime Minister's Relief Fund. It did not refer to the Chinese money. So what he
Okay,
said
okay.
on the 20 lakhs was that he would refund the Gandhis
No,
would
I
refund
think
the money.
he tweeted freshly about today's morning. I think.
Yes, on China, so
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
they would give the money. You see what they are doing is very simple. They know that this government cannot and will not take action. Okay, there is no fear in the Congress. Please understand that. And this is what the government needs to understand because they believe in their ecosystem. You understand? This
Yeah, yeah.
perception around it's a very simple analogy. You think of a village, okay? In the village, people are living together very cohesively and nicely. Suddenly a snake comes. Okay? What do you think happens to that village? They start screaming, the villagers start screaming, they're scared, they're afraid. They don't know whether that snake is poisonous or not. It is in their mind, they think that the snake is poisonous, right? Yet the villagers will run helter skelter. That is exactly the fear created by Congress.
Well said. Very well said, sir.
Exactly the fear. And I am saying, go over there, pick the snake in your hand, and chop its head off. That's all I'm saying. That ecosystem, that fear will go out. But unfortunately, the BJP is afraid of the snake. That's the problem.
Okay, okay, okay. So, Mr. Rahul Gandhi has been continuously tweeting about the attacks on our Javans, and he has been tweeting about the whether our soldiers were left unarmed in the valley. So, what's the primary thing? I mean, what's wrong with the Congress party? Everybody is talking about the same thing. I mean, what's the actual scenario that happened in the Galwan Valley, and why the Congress is behaving like this?
Okay. It comes back to the relationship between China and Congress. Okay. I normally discount what Rahul Gandhi says because there is very little intelligence in what Rahul Gandhi says. It is merely inputs that he receives from his advisors, and that's when he comes and mouths it. So there is no real intel. The problem is most people in the country that are anti BJP are feeding off this belief that everything that China says to the media is actually accurate, which is not true. I'm not saying you have to trust the Indian government, but there is definitely confidence I have in the Indian army. And through that, with Prime Minister Modi and our Defense Minister Rajnath Singh as well. So when the Indian government and the Indian army tells me that there was, roughly, and this is I've had a personal discussions with some of them, that there were about 43 Chinese that were casualties in the Chinese side, and there were several more that were injured. Then I'm
Injured.
going to believe what the Indian Army senior is telling me, who was in that place, okay, without naming him. The Indian government has been very truthful in saying the number of Jawans that were martyred, right? So what happened was there was genuinely a conflict. The Indian government has made a statement saying that the Chinese were trying to erect a structure. If you go by the spectorial images that have come out on several channels and some of the spectorial images we have ourselves, you see what China was trying to do in the Galwan Valley was try and create a build up around that side of the border, okay? And they were also trying to hinder the water flow over there by creating a dam in that area. when you stop the water flow on Galwan, there will be a resultant impact in other areas around that once the water flow is stopped. So if you see today, after this the face-off that took off, the water flow continues to happen now because the Indian Army went and broke those barriers that they were putting into the water flow at that point of time, right? So at this stage, I will trust the Indian government on their statement as far as the Chinese incursion is concerned, and I will trust the Indian army. I am not going to listen to Rahul Gandhi's opinion because it has no value whatsoever. And the people of India should also not waste its time listening to Rahul Gandhi's view because he's not somebody who understands geopolitics, and I will trust my country anytime above his statements.
Okay. So now let's discuss about the Congress party. I want to discuss it with you probably. So there are many talented peoples in the Congress, but what's wrong with the ecosystem? Because I can read out the names state by state. If you take Kerala, there is Shashi Tharoor and Ramesh Chengappa, and if you come to Rajasthan, we have Sachin Pilot, and if you come to Maharashtra, we had Jyotiraditya Scindia. So there are many talented leaders, but why the Congress is only dependent on the Nehru's family?
Okay. I was in the Congress for almost about 6 to 7 months. This was in 2000 and mid 2016, right up to the elections in 2017. Okay.
Okay.
Um I got into the Congress because of a good person who asked me that Goa requires a certain amount of assistance with your vision. Can you help? More importantly, a considerable amount of voter base in the constituency I belong to are very pro towards the Congress and good people in the setup in where I come from. There are some very good people in the Congress. There is no doubt about it. They are intellectually good people. They are also very committed Indians in their own right. However, they have become, sometimes I don't know how to explain it, but because you're so used to the system, the ecosystem of doing what you're allowed to do, some being corrupt, some allowed to grow really fast because of coming into power, they don't look at who's on top. So as long as Rahul Gandhi is on top or the Gandhis are on top, they don't care. What they care about is whether they are able to do things within their sphere and the top is kept happy. So if you talk to many of the Congress leaders, so when I resigned, when I was the vice chairman of the minority, and I resigned on national television after the debacle that happened in Goa, uh, the reason I resigned was I was warning the Congress that the BJP will work out an arrangement with the alliance parties, and if you because there were new people, good people who had won, and BJP in that period when Manoj Parikar had moved to the center had actually
Yeah,
failed in a lot of ways. That's why they dropped from 22 to 13. So the
yeah,
people
yeah,
were
yeah.
very upset with BJP at that time. So it was a lesson for the BJP to come in, follow the wishes of the people of Goa. But when I tried to reach out to the seniors, I tried to reach out to people. I even spoke to the then person in charge, Digvijay Singh. Tried to reach out to him. Nobody gave me an answer. So I wrote a letter straight to Mrs. Gandhi because I had accessibility at the highest level. And that letter then became public. And so I was asked, why do you want to resign? And on national television, I said, because I don't find Rahul to be a leader. You see, when there is a crisis, a leader is supposed to deal with it. You had 5 people fighting for a CM position when it was time to form the government, which they did not do. And and then I realized the problem with the Congress is nobody wants accountability for what is wrong. And Rahul Gandhi is the leader of non-accountability. Okay. Whenever there's been failure of the Congress, Rahul Gandhi does not take accountability for it. Everybody around protects Rahul Gandhi from accountability. So when I put out this letter out, people started to call me up and say, if you cannot bring Rahul Gandhi into the discussion. Why did you bring Rahul Gandhi into the discussion? You cannot attack Rahul Gandhi. You cannot attack Sonia Gandhi. And that is the time when I made up my mind. I said, I will ensure that Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi become immaterial as far as India is concerned. Because if you're going to tell me when I stood up for the right that you cannot raise a voice against Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi, they are up there and you are down here, that is the time I made a commitment to myself that I will wipe the name of Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi from India.
So nice to hear your stories, sir. So this is the
Because
actual
I
reason you
did,
came out.
yeah, because I did what my people wanted to do. You see, I went out the next day after the election results came, and a 70-year-old lady asked me, Baba, you told me to vote for Congress. Now, what Congress did? They gave the government to the BJP. I'm talking Goa scenario. Because the BJP in Goa at that time, I'm repeating, were messing it up completely. They even messed it up further this time when they took those Congress leaders into the BJP government and made the government stronger. They took 10 Congress leaders.
Yeah.
These leaders are not BJP people. They don't share the core ideology of BJP. You know, today they are with BJP, tomorrow they'll go with another party. They are all interested in the seat over here. That is when I realized that the problem with Congress is the Gandhis, not necessarily some of the good people in the Congress. I have no issues with the Congress. I have an issue with the Gandhis. I have an issue with the what you call the slave mentality, this aristocratic Raj that continues even today with the Congress, that nobody else can be a party president except the Congress. That is when I decided to move on. I was a small guy in the Congress. I was nobody really, you know. I was just an immaterial person. But the problem is, and even an ant can trouble an elephant at some times if he knows where the ear of the elephant is, right? And that's exactly what I did, and it's exactly what I'm doing. I'm saying it openly. I've said it on national television as well. Rahul Gandhi is not my leader, and he's not competent to lead India. He may be competent to lead slaves. He's not competent to lead India. Do you know why? Because India is of free people, not slaves. We are free men and women. That's the difference.
Okay. So 2 days back, I read an article written by Mr. Sanjay Jha. So he said elaborately about the Congress Working Committee as well as where they have lost their power. So what do you think the future of the Congress Party, because they have lost in every state and they have lost 2 elections continuously. So what do you think about the future of the Congress?
As long as the Gandhis are with the Congress, Congress has no future.
Okay.
As a
So
political party keeping India in mind. Congress might have a future as a political party keeping the Gandhis in mind. But
okay,
as a
it is included the Priyanka Gandhi also, because now she is eyeing on Uttar Pradesh for the 2022 elections. So she will give whether she will give a tough competition for Mr. Yogi Adityanath or Mayawati or
she is
Mr.
no
Akhilesh Yadav.
competition to Yogi Adityanath.
Okay, so because yesterday
Let
also
me be
she said
blunt.
that.
If you
Uh,
think Rahul Gandhi is dumb, Priyanka Gandhi
yeah.
is even dumber.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
So
and I'm not saying that in terms of their personalities. As people, they might be good people. I'm talking about purely political.
okay.
Politically, they have no acumen, they have no standing. They are there because of a legacy that has been given to them. That is why they are there. Otherwise, they don't have the political acumen that is required to run a state or to run a country. And Priyanka Gandhi will fail.
Okay. So there has been a political speculation in the Manipur last week. So you may be knowing that. What actually happened? The four NPP MLAs withdrew the support from the ruling by BJP government, and then they supported the Congress, and then they came back to BJP. So what's actually going on there?
Okay. Political machinations in smaller states are actually very easy. It's not surprising. Okay. It happened in Goa as well. You had people who were in the Congress who won on the Congress ticket and then they shifted and joined the BJP. Okay. Politics is there today doesn't, it's very rare that you have politics driven by ideology. Some of the ideology in the BJP cadre still remains. Some of the ideology in very few of the Congress remains. But Congress was never a party of any strong ideology. It was a party that rose to power on this idea of secularism at that point of time, you know. So there was no core ideology, unlike the BJP. So the BJP cadre is a cadre-based system with an ideology. So that is why you will have a lot of people aligning towards one leader and not one family. Otherwise, how would you explain a Narendra Modi rising up to the prime minister position? Somebody else should have been taking his position, right? But he was somebody who was a chaiwala, was working with the RSS, then got into the political aspect of it, and that's how he grew up. That will never happen in the Congress. In the Congress, the position on the top is always for the Gandhis, and that is where they will fail. So they will keep a prime minister, but the back controls will always be with the Congress because they are so afraid to let go of that power. Once you are in that seat of power, it's very difficult to let go.
Okay. So now we will come to my state, that is Tamil Nadu. So there has been there is an upcoming election in 2021, which is gonna be faced by GMK on the one side, on the ADMK on the one side. On Mr. Kamal Hassan also started a new party, and Mr. Rajinikanth will also be on the field. So how do you think the field is going to be very aggressive as well as very competitive?
Well, I must say I love Tamil Nadu. If I had a choice
Thank you.
to live, and I am considering it, it
Yeah.
would be Chennai because I think it's an amazing place. I
So
thought
we used to tell a dialogue actually. So it's known as Bandare Varvekkum Chennai. Those who come to Chennai, we will help them to live.
No, it was.
So welcome.
Thank you. I thought it was. I think the people of Tamil Nadu are very emotional people, very connected to their land, very much in awe of film stars that turn politicians at the end of the day. So they live in this very cute little euphoria, you know, this belief that they have that everything is good as long as you're doing good. You know, that is the nature of the people of Tamil Nadu. You know, they don't have any hang-ups with people. They're easygoing. You know, of course they're very passionate people, so you know, very prone to emotions and aggressive emotions. But I thought Chennai was fantastic. I've been to Chennai even before, but not with a vision towards doing business in Chennai and setting up Tamil Nadu Chronicle. uh, but I thought it's fantastic politically. I think AIDMK is making some inroads. Your chief minister is gaining some popularity on his own without the what you would call shadow of the former CM Jayalalitha. So he's creating his own inroads, and people are starting to take him seriously. As
Yeah.
far as Tamil Nadu is concerned, I think your chief minister is doing a very good job. As in, over the last 1 year, the popularity of the chief minister has grown, and I think more importantly, people are starting to respect his own decision-making caliber. Uh, whether that would translate with him wanting to be him being the next chief ministerial candidate in Tamil Nadu, that's a question that will be decided over the next 6 months. But what is definitely happening is that the DMK is gaining a little bit of an upper ground as far as noise is concerned, far as nuisance value is concerned. So they are gaining their strength. So it is important for like-minded parties to align in order to defeat the DMK. DMK is going to be the power center over there that will have a upper hold right now. AIDMK is a little broken up, so they need to connect with the other political parties to ensure that DMK doesn't come in. And in all this, catalysts like Kamal Hassan, somebody as powerful as Rajnikant, can make a lot of difference. Kamal Hassan won't make much of a difference, in my opinion. Okay, he will have some success, but not a lot of success. Very minuscule success. The person that can have a majority of success is Rajnikant, because Rajnikant connects with the people at a different level. He connects at a ground level, at a base level, at a common man level. Kamal Hassan doesn't do that. Kamal Hassan connects at an intellectual level, at a superficial level, you know, as you would call the elite level. See, he might appeal to some of the elite. Rajnikant appeals across, strata of society. So that is where Rajnikant is a very crucial element in the upcoming elections if he decides to stand. In my conversation with him when I met him in Chennai the last time, what I categorically told him was that it is important that he should stand for elections because Tamil Nadu needs a Rajnikant. In my opinion, at this point of time, Tamil Nadu needs a Rajnikant.
Okay, okay. So I saw you writing a written letter. I mean, a letter written to Mr. Kamala Hassan regarding what you will do at the situation of Corona. So why are you so aggressive at Mr. Kamala Hassan? Because you said that he can't do anything also. But why are you so aggressive about Mr. Kamala Hassan?
I'll tell you why I was aggressive against Mr. Kamal Hassan. You see, Mr. Kamal Hassan is an intellectual person, okay? And I respect his craft and I respect his intelligence. When you want to communicate in the interest of the nation, okay, that communication must be positive and it must be with solutions. You see, the only way Kamal Hassan can distinguish himself from the rest of the stupid politicians that are there in the country is by telling the government, even by being critical. You see, you can be critical. It's not that you cannot be critical. But your critique has to come with the solution. So somebody as intellectual as Kamal Hassan, if he would have said, these are your problems to COVID and these are my solutions, then it would have been more impactful. And that is why my question to Kamal Hassan was, what are your solutions? See, at the end of the day, I can tell you everything that's wrong in Tamil Nadu. Let's say, for example, I'll come to Tamil Nadu and say, everything is wrong about Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu people are rubbish. The infrastructure is pathetic. The hotels have got mosquitoes. Everything is crap. Have I provided a solution to the problem? The answer is no. I've only gone and criticized. Right? The problem with Kamal Hassan was that the reason I pestered him was to actually get him to tell me. If you notice after the letter also, I kept messaging him, tell me what you would do. No, because if you tell the government what you can do differently, forget Modi. He could have done it in Tamil Nadu. No, this was an opportunity for Kamal Hassan in Tamil Nadu to tell the state, hey, listen, buddy, you are doing something wrong. Why don't you do it this way? That is when you will become a better leader. You see, leaders like Kamal Hassan, who have got such a large fan following, must be the solution providers while being the critics. Because people who criticize without a purpose are not leaders, they are fence sitters. Leaders are people who criticize with a solution. You see, that's the problem with even Rahul Gandhi. Rahul Gandhi is a critic without a solution. I'm saying Kamal Hassan was within his right to criticize. But if you criticize without a solution, then you're just a critic sitting on a fence. You're not doing it in the interest of the people. And if Kamal Hassan cared about the people, he would have advised the Tamil Nadu government, listen, these are my suggestions, can you follow it? And if he did that and the Tamil Nadu government never listened, then I would have supported him.
Okay, okay, okay. So, so DMK has some permanent vote bank for the past 50 years. There are people who have been voting from ages to ages to the DMK. So, how can Mr. Rajinikanth come and break this vote bank?
See, that's going to be a challenge. Okay, DMK's biggest strength is you've got to since you're from there, ADMK and DMK are really the strong parties,
Yeah.
right? BJP does not have a chance in Tamil Nadu, not this time.
No.
If,
No, not this time.
they might have a time, maybe 5 years.
Maybe
later.
in future.
But not now. So why is DMK strong? Because people did not have an alternative for a third front. Okay. Because AIDMK and DMK had very strong, powerful leaders, there was never a third alternative. But if you ask majority of the Tamilians whether if they were given a third alternative that was more promising than the existing two, then they would have taken the third alternative. You understand? Because for so long they've seen two only. If you bring a third person to the fray, then one of the two will go down. Do you understand? A third powerful one.
Yeah.
Right? It's exactly that.
This happened in UP also, I think. This
Yes.
equation has happened in UP also.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the same thing. So I'm not saying for Rajnikant will not eat only DMK votes. Rajnikant will even eat ADMK votes. In fact, Rajnikant's
So,
success will be more disastrous to ADMK.
yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
understand? Unless they get
Yeah,
into
yeah,
a
yeah.
tie-up. Unless they
Yeah,
get into
I
a
think
tie-up.
there is no possibility for Rajinikanth tying up with the ADMK, because he is the one who raised his voice against the ADMK. So there is no possibility of tying up with the ADMK government. So he stands on his own, and he forms an alliance with several like-minded parties who are willing to join with
Exactly.
them. So
Correct.
this is how it's gonna be work.
And
So
then it's
let's
going to
wait
be a
and see.
three-way fight. It will be a
Yeah, yeah,
three-way
yeah,
fight. But Rajnikant has to take a decision.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
if he
But
has.
yeah, I think you met him after March, like when he announced his press meet. So in his press meet, he said that I'm not going to be the CM candidate.
Yes.
Make an educated person as well as a kind-hearted person as a chief minister. So now the question is, so someone, if he or she is voting for Rajnikant, will vote for his face value. If someone other than Rajnikant is replacing
If
the chief
Rajnikant is
minister's
not,
chair,
if Rajnikant is not the
yeah, yeah,
CM
yeah.
face,
If Rajnikant is not the chief minister,
he will
maybe
not
he
get
or
any
she may
vote.
not vote for. Yeah, maybe he may not get any vote. So
He
how
will
is
not get any
this
vote.
strategy going to work for Mr. Rajnikant?
If Rajnikant puts somebody else as a chief minister instead of his face, he will not even recover his deposits. If he
Okay,
puts a
okay,
party
okay.
people around, if he puts somebody else other than his face as a CM candidate, he will find it difficult to even recover his deposits. He has to be the face.
So you have met Mr. Rajnikant personally, and so what he said, and did he said about his views, and did he said about his upcoming parties announcement, anything
See,
about you in personal?
I'll tell you what I like about Rajnikant. I like the fact that Rajnikant has reached a stage in his life where he has realized that he has to contribute much more to society in some form, give back. So he's in that frame of mind that I want to give back to society. And politics is an extension, in his understanding, of a give back to society, because he's got money, he's got fame. uh, I don't think he needs anything more, because he's doing well for himself, as an actor and a celebrity on his own right. But his vision is driven by this need to empower Tamilians to go beyond this ADMK and DMK philosophies of politics. He wants it to be more Tamil centric, where every common Tamilian can actually rise up to be popular and lead Tamil Nadu to the next few years. Because his story is that his story is somebody who actually rose from nothing to a huge success, and he's done that because of the people of Tamil Nadu. So he believes that he wants to be a change manager primarily. He wants to change the mindset of the people of Tamil Nadu, that you need to be self-empowered to actually take Tamil Nadu to the next level. So his thought is more social in his approach, but to achieve it, he has to take it political. So his dilemma right now is between the social vis-a-vis the politics, and whether it can come together. So that's where his problem is. So if he understands that if you have to make a social impact, you have to first make a political impact to make your social endeavors win. That is the only time the Rajnikant will come in as a chief minister and take over, move for the people in Tamil Nadu. He needs to believe that. But for that to also happen, the people must extend support beyond just his fans. You see, if he is relying on his fans, he will not win the elections. It is the people
Well
of
said, well
Tamil
said.
Nadu that will make him win the election. So he has to reach out, and that is the challenge. He has to be able to reach out there, because nobody is going to vote for Rajnikant based on the fact that he's a movie star, right? Its fans will vote for him, but the other Tamilians might not. So Rajnikant will have to connect with people beyond his movie stars.
So that was well given statement by you, sir. So our people are also expecting the change through Rajnikant or someone else. So we will wait and see for the next 1 year. So now let's discuss about the coronavirus. So how India is different from the world in handling the coronavirus. We had continuous lockdowns, and now we are unlocking the country. So how is India different from the world?
Uh, okay. We are obviously seeing a rise in cases, and but the active cases are low. The recovery is high, which is a good sign.
Yeah, yeah.
There is
We
a
have
there
around
has
3 lakh recovery cases, I think.
yes.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, there have been a certain amount of death. Somewhere around 15,000 deaths have been there, which is very
Yeah, yeah.
unfortunate. But I think we are performing in terms of the impact that could have happened a little better than most countries. But let me give you a perspective into the virus. Okay, and this is based on what has happened globally. The virus has no nature. Nobody's been able to understand the nature of the coronavirus. Okay, uh, the virus is acting differently in different places. The World Health Organization itself has been saying different things at different times. You know, sometimes masks are not necessary for everybody, then masks are necessary for everybody. So there is a lot of confusion on what is the nature of the coronavirus. So nobody knows how it's going to react, how it's going to act, and what is its impact level. All they are seeing is a shoot up on the number of cases. Some are getting affected, some are getting recovery, and some are dying. So that is precisely what has happened, and that is why the fear factor happened. So countries continue to put their nations under lockdown, and when they thought it was safe, they started to open up. Now you have to look at this very interesting aspect. The US is probably one of the most effective healthcare systems in the world. Okay, it has one of the most robust healthcare systems in the world, but it has 10 million cases. I mean, the world has 10 million cases, out of which about 5 or 4 is with the US in terms of the number of cases. So
Yeah, yeah.
why does US, which has got such a robust health system, get so much of virus? Why does UK, which is another country that has a robust health system? So all
Italy
the
also.
Italy, they look at the
Hmm.
West, no? The West has been completely decimated by the virus in terms of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
impact. India too could have been decimated, but it has not achieved that decimation, and there's a delayed. So I'm not saying we have fared well. I'm not even saying that the lockdown has worked. You know, the lockdown has and has not worked simply because you don't know the nature of the virus. In Russia, the delay took 75 days. Everybody thought Russia was okay, but the delay in the spurt of the virus took 75 days. So you're going to have the cases in India also increasing, but the recoveries will be more. So the nation has to realize that it has to learn to live with the coronavirus. It has to understand that it has to learn to live with the coronavirus. It was relying more on non-pharmaceutical measures, which is you don't need tablets and all at this stage because there are none, except for certain things like hydrochloroquine, and the others. Uh, but
Hydroxychloroquine.
yeah, hydroxychloroquine,
Hmm.
which needs to be administered when it's suggested by a doctor. It cannot be taken by anybody just like that because it's dangerous, right? So there will be medicines. But the success, which many people are not talking in India at least, has a lot to link to our traditional Ayurvedic methods. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of people are actually coming out of it from home quarantine rather than hospital quarantine,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can see Delhi now. We can see it in Delhi also.
right? So there is something in this virus that can be treated with our own Ayurvedic systems. Okay, the government has not been made a lot of noise about it, and that is a reason I don't know. Okay, maybe they don't have enough tests, but I believe that Ayurvedic methodologies will help lessen the impact of the virus. I'm not saying it will kill the virus. I'm saying it will lessen the impact of the virus. That's my understanding, and I think the government should pursue it. They should do a bit of more studies on the prophylactic, impact of Ayurvedic treatment.
Okay. So I have one last question to you. So we had a airstrike when Pakistan killed our army jawans on 2019. So can we see an counter action against the China also? So you said that you spoke with an Indian army person, sir. So can we
Okay.
see an counter action strategy against the China also?
Uh, India in history, if you understand Indian history and the way the military behaves, is the Indian army will not attack unless provoked to a corner enough to attack. Okay. So India will never be the first one to start a war with you
Yeah,
unless
yeah,
you provoke India. I think diplomatically what is happening right now is that the Indian government is handling China in a very diplomatic manner. They are dealing with it. They are ensuring China backs off from whatever their plan was, and I think the Indian army will be able to secure that the border pretty effectively. But will India go to war with China at this stage? The answer is no. India will not go to war with China. Neither will China go to war with India. China will trouble India. There is no doubt on that, and they will continue to trouble. And that is why the only way you can attack China is by attacking its economy.
yeah.
If you start being more focused on Indianized goods and reject Chinese good, you will crumple their economy. India is a large economy for China.
Yeah. Half of their products has been sold in India only.
Yes, their
So
economy
now
mostly is driven by India. So if India cuts
India.
that, then India will be able to deal with it. It's a
Okay,
long
okay,
process.
okay.
It's not going to happen that easy. But wars,
Uh,
no, I don't think so. It's not good for either of the
so
countries.
yeah. Thank you so much, dear sir. So it was a pleasure and very useful things talking with you, and we had known very much about the Congress Party as well as the governments in India as well as Tamil Nadu also. So it was a pleasure talking with you. So thank you so
My
much,
pleasure.
sir.
God bless. Bye
Yeah,
bye.
thank you.